قليلة من حصول الانفجار، أم أنها سيارة أيضا الذي يربط وزارة الزراعة بالسفارة الإيرانية وهناك قام بتفجير. السيارة الثانية السيارة التي انفجر كان بداخلها انتحاري. نعم هي مزدبل.
صحيح.
انتحاري.
انا اللي بهتم فيه اكثر هي ملك خاص. هيدي كلام خاص يعني.
Well, an al-Qaeda-linked group claims responsibility for twin homicide bombings near the Iran embassy in Lebanon that killed 23 people, including an Iranian diplomat. The al-Qaeda group taking responsibility is called the Abdullah Azzam Brigades, and it's a group that's warning it will launch even more attacks until Iran pulls its forces out of Syria. Peter Brooks is a former CIA officer and a senior fellow in national security affairs for the Heritage Foundation. And Peter, when you see the headline, you almost have to read it a few times, that there was the homicide bombing outside the Iranian embassy in Lebanon, a state one often connects back to Iran. So what is the significance of this?
Well, there's a number of things at play here. First of all, the continuing civil war in Syria. This is spillover. I think the other major dynamic here, Jenna, is the Sunni-Shia violence we're seeing and the rift that's going on in that part of the region. Once again, this al-Qaeda-affiliated group that is an offshoot of al-Qaeda in Iraq and operates in that entire region attacked Iran, a Shia state, and in the southern part of Beirut, which is Hezbollah Shia territory. So there's a lot of things going on here. It also shows, I'm concerned, is that you see the reach of al-Qaeda in the region. It's just not limited to Iraq or to Syria. Now we're seeing it in Lebanon as well.
Why now?
Well, because I think the situation is that on the ground in Syria, my understanding is that the Bashar Assad forces, the government forces, are actually making great gains against the leaderless rebel forces. And that's because of Iran's backing, and that's because of Hezbollah's backing. So what they're saying now, if Hezbollah can go from Lebanon to Syria and to fight Sunnis, and Iran can go from Iran to Syria to fight Sunnis, then we can come into your own backyard and attack you. I mean, it's also possible, though unlikely, I would say, that you might see something in Iran. But certainly Lebanon was a good target of opportunity for this al-Qaeda group to make a point.
So take this back, if you could, to some of the other news that we are getting today. Scheduled today, the president is set to meet with a bipartisan group of senators about what to do next about Iran. And he certainly has met with a lot of resistance from both Republicans and Democrats of easing the sanctions that are in place right now. What does this attack tell us about Iran, if anything? And how does Syria still figure into this picture about how we address the nuclear issue with Iran?
Well, that's a very good question. In fact, I would say that Iran is under a lot more pressure than people realize. We're talking about the sanctions. The president and his team is saying to Congress, please don't put any additional punitive sanctions, economic sanctions on Iran while we have these negotiations, which start again tomorrow in Geneva. But I would say that Iran is actually quite vulnerable right now, not only because of the existing sanctions, the potential for additional sanctions by the United States, but also because they've got this tremendous problem in Syria. Syria is their best ally. It's their conduit to Hezbollah in Lebanon for funding and for arms. And they're involved in a war. People kind of overlook this, but I think Iran is very vulnerable right now to significant outside pressure, which means we should be able to strike a better deal with them on their nuclear program because of what is going on in Syria.
And we shall see about what's next with that deal.
That's
Peter,
right.
And of course, have you back to talk about it. Peter, great to see you. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.